the brain always constructs your world. I mean, that's quite clear. You can, if I zap your brain, I can change the structure. I can change your perception without affecting the environment, right? So the world you experience is always this model that's being constructed by your brain. But your brain had to learn to do that. Your brain had to learn the patterns. From the moment you were born, your brain was constantly sampling all of these sensory inputs from the environment, this pattern of information at the back of the cortex, and finding patterns and building object models and learning to construct your model of the world. And of course, when you dream, your brain is building the world in the same way. It's using these models, right, that it's learned, which is why most people dream about, you or a kind of someone like me, grown up in the West. When you study the content of their dreams, what do they dream about? They dream about people. They dream about dogs. They dream about cats. They maybe dream about horses and cows. If you interview someone who lives in the Amazon, they don't dream about dogs and cats. They dream about people. They dream about stingray. They dream about jaguar, right? They dream about the animals. So they're dreaming about the things. Dreaming is more like
They dream about past experiences.
Right, exactly. So it's a combination of past experiences, but also the brain kind of simulating the waking world. You can think of dreaming as like selective simulation of the waking world. Your brain is using what it knows about building worlds that it's learned in the waking state and doing that in the dream state. And you can see this in real time, not in real time, but if you study the dreams of children, something very interesting. There aren't many people that really study the dreams of children. But there's a guy called David Falk, I believe, Foulke, maybe Falks. It's in the book. And he studied the dreams of children, groups of children, but also individual children. Looking at, so how do the dreams of children, first of all, what do children dream of? What are children's dreams like? And how do their dreams change as they grow and develop? So we took children from the ages of like 4 all the way up to adolescence, and through like 16, 17 years old, and actually looked, how do the children's dreams change? And what was kind of interesting is that very young children, first of all, they didn't dream that much. So I think they were, if you woke up a child in so-called dream sleep, REM sleep, they were only dreaming about 15, 20% of the time. So they weren't dreaming all the time. But when they did dream, their dreams were more like slideshows, static images. So they might dream of an image of a wolf. But what they didn't dream of was wolves moving around, right? It wasn't like a movie. Now think about why that's the case. If you think about it, like, how difficult is it to dream of a picture of a wolf or just an image of a wolf? Not that difficult. But how difficult is it then for your brain to generate a wolf that's actually moving as wolves do?
You have to see it.
You have to see it, right? It's very difficult for your brain to do that. So your brain has to learn not just how objects look or how to construct object models, kind of static object models. Your brain also has to learn how they interact with the environment, how they move, and all of that stuff. Very dynamic. Very, how does a wolf
deeper
look?
Catalog.
Yeah, exactly. So rather than just a two-dimensional image of a wolf, you have to understand how a wolf occupies space, how it moves. So that's very difficult. Children's brains can't do it because they haven't learned enough about how to build worlds. They can build images of worlds, or images of objects and animals and people, but they can't. The brain can't build, unless they have sensory inputs, as they do when they're waking, they can't generate these selective simulations of the waking world without sensory inputs.
Right.
But then, as the children start to grow and develop and their brain learns how to construct the world in much more detail, the dreams start to change. They go from being very static images with no interaction between the dreamer and the images to more, so they go from slideshows to movies. And then the dream actually starts to interact with the characters in the dream. So they actually start to see people moving around and wolves, if they dream of wolves, whatever. You're kind of seeing that development of the brain's ability to construct worlds, to construct its model of the world, even in the absence of sensory inputs.
Yes.
Right? People often describe psychedelics as taking you back to more like a childlike state. So as you learn and as your brain develops and you grow, and your brain is always kind of trying to, it has its own idea of what the world looks like. It has its own model, and it becomes quite rigid. It knows exactly what it's looking for, and this is why the brain is often described as this predictive machine. It's constantly it's parcellated the world into objects, and these objects develop and they solidify as you grow and develop. So in a sense, your brain already kind of knows what it's going to see. It's already decided, in a sense, what it's going to see when you open your eyes. And most of the time that works perfectly well. It's very adaptive. It means your brain doesn't have to spend a lot of time kind of working out the world, because it instantaneously sees this pattern of sensory inputs in the visual cortex, and it'll go, okay, that's a bottle of water.
Right.
So it becomes very rigid.
For conserving energy, I would imagine.
Conserving energy. Neuronal processes are very expensive, so you don't want to, and of course they're slow, quite slow. So your brain has this model that it then really just tests against sensory inputs. It's just testing that its model is working. It doesn't. You don't need much sensory information. Now, when you introduce a psychedelic into the brain, it loosens all of that up. It makes everything much more fluid, which means it becomes more soft and fluid and dynamic, which means the brain actually becomes less adaptive. The models it's generating are less immediately useful. Because all of these rigid models that allow you to instantaneously recognize everything, they start to break down. And so the world becomes much more fluid and dynamic. But a consequence of that is that the brain becomes much more sensitive to sensory inputs, becomes very... because the neurons are much more excitable, and because these predictions, they fail, because the brain's model of the world is starting to break down. So these predictions start to fail, and you get all of these errors coming up into the brain. And so it's like you're seeing the world with a brain that is not as developed, like a child's brain. So your brain isn't instantaneously making decisions on what everything is. And so it's like you're seeing the world anew. Like you've never seen it before. Your brain, you haven't decided what you're seeing. And coupled with this increased sensitivity to sensory information, the world becomes transcendent. It becomes much more vivid. Everything seems anew, as if you are a young child that's just opened his eyes for the first time.